What you're looking at is another good option for a deployment blade if you're a trooper engaged in combat operations in Afghanistan and or Iraq or whatever future war is going to come our way. This is a dedicated fighting knife, and this is of course the excellent Gerber Applegate-Fairbairn Combat Folding Knife. And there's a lot to like about this blade, and I'm going to try to cover it in 10 minutes. Again, the category of this knife is a dedicated fighter. The blade is pretty much designed to do thrust cutting, i.e. stabbing. You could do some utility tasks with it, no doubt, but it's primarily a fighting knife. And I think it would excel in that role. The first thing we're going to talk about in this knife is the weight. And the weight is substantial. It's 6.6 ounces, 6.8 ounces, something along those lines. Now, like I've said in my other videos, I don't mind exceeding my 4-ounce arbitrary limit on knives as long as the knife we're talking about offers me something in return. And the Combat Folder by Gerber does just that. What it offers us is a lot of reach in a folding knife design, coupled with a very functional and large handle, which will work with both ungloved and gloved hands. So sometimes a large handle is what we want. So, lot to like. Let's first talk about this blade. It is a dedicated dagger special, so to speak. Now, as it comes from the factory, this portion right here, I'm going to use my my Kershaw Blur SG2 as my pointer today. This portion right here came unsharpened from the factory. Now, like I've done with a lot of my knives, I customize them with a special grind, and I make their angles more shallow so they're more razor sharp. And I did just that to this Gerber. Now, when I say I did it, I didn't do the work. I had Razor's Edge in Salt Lake City do it for me, and they did a great job. A lot of you guys contact me all the time. Hey, where can I get that done? Where can I get that done? Well, I think that the number of sharpeners who are able to do this probably are not very available in your area. I'd recommend just probably sending it to Razor's Edge. But that's just me. If you can find someone who can do the work for you, or if you can do it yourself, I say go for it. But what it does to this Combat Folder is it transforms it to an even more deadlier design. Now, the edge as it came from Gerber was adequate, but it wasn't super sharp. I was kind of disappointed in it. So I knew I definitely wanted to sharpen that up and back that relief cut up. And when I say back it up, I mean move it into this portion of the blade longer so I can get a shallower angle running to the edge, i.e. more razor sharp. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and sharpen that upper clip. Now, some of you guys are saying, well, that's a folding knife. How in the world do you have an upper edge sharpened on a folding knife? Well, here we get to one of the most outstanding features of the Gerber Combat Folder, is when I put that blade in its FRN handle, it is completely concealed. Notice there's no portion of that sharpened edge that shows on the FRN handle. How many knives do you know that do that? Most dedicated daggers or folding spear point designs almost always have that upper edge showing through their handle, so you cannot sharpen it. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the spear point dagger blade design in smaller knives. And some of you guys have asked me about the Benchmade 950. Hey, do you like that? My answer is no, not really, because that's a small spear point blade. If I'm going to go with a spear point / dagger design like this knife, I want something with reach. This is a 4.5 inch blade, and it is a purpose-built defensive / offensive knife, and it has a reach for it. If I'm running a sub 3 inch blade in this design, to me it's ridiculous. It just defeats the purpose. You know, it's not a good EDC design, let's face it. A good EDC design would be more along the lines of this Blur. How it has sweep to it. A sweep for utility cutting is much more useful. This has no sweep at all. It's basically designed, again, for thrust cutting, and it does it quite well. And there's nothing wrong with that. Thrust cutting is a very deadly attack method that served many a troop and law enforcement official and armed citizens well throughout the years. So that's that. So if I'm going to go with a dagger design, I want a 4.5 inch blade or even more. And there's good luck trying to find dagger designs that have this kind of reach and this kind of handle. It's just hard, especially at this price point. This is retails for $100. I think I got it for $82 years ago through the BX-PX system of the military. So, really nice. Let's talk more about the blade. One thing I don't like about Gerber knives, and I've said this before, is their funky mystery steel that they force upon us, whatever they call it, 425M. It's a non-standard steel, and they just don't tell us much about it. Why don't they use just the standard knife-making steels? I would like this blade to be made out of 154 cm. S30V would be even better. I would have been happy with ATS34, even AUS8, but instead I'm stuck with Gerber's mystery steel. Now, that being said, like I said in my other reviews, like the Cold Steel OSS and the Cold Steel Peacekeeper series, the steel that we choose for a dagger design that doesn't have a lot of utility tasks thrown its way is almost secondary. Because this is a knife, just like a backup gun, that will be carried a lot and used little. So I don't mind that the steel is what it is in this knife, and it definitely does not sink an otherwise outstanding design. Now, as you can see, this has a serrated portion to it. And if I had it my way, it'd be full plain edge, but they just don't offer the combat folder in a plain edge version. So you're always going to have a little run of serrations. Not a showstopper for me, not too bad, but like I've said, if I want to have serrations, I want them all along the blade. They just are much more effective that way. Now, along with that upper edge that I've had sharpened, and by the way, both of the edges I have running on this knife are razor sharp. So yeah, I have to use utmost care when I'm closing this blade. But another great design of the Gerber Combat Folder is that it has this ridge on the top of the spine that you can close a knife with. And it's almost like they intended it to be sharpened, to be honest. At least this guy did. This guy too, Fairbairn. I don't know if they actually designed the blade or if it's their minions. But either way, that ridge right there allows me to close the blade that's sharpened on the upper spine without hurting myself. Now again, this is a training issue. We need to practice that way and be careful. If you decide to do this, I'm going to tell you, having an upper edge on a combat tactical folding knife sharpened is different, and it'd be real easy to cut yourself. I haven't done it yet. That's because I practice with a knife and I'm careful with it. But I'm willing to take on that additional risk for a lot more capability. So that's just me. Your mileage may vary. Running out of time, let's talk about the handle. It's an FRN, very nicely stippled handle. It's not really stippled, it's just molded in texturing of the fiber reinforced nylon handle, and I like it. It's on the better side of FRN handles. It's not completely tractionable, but not too bad, and it feels comfortable in hand. The ergonomics of the handle are outstanding. It can serve as an impact device if you hold it either way, because it's a symmetrical handle, meaning it's shaped the same way both ways. That way we don't have to orient it in our hands a certain way. Great impact device like a Kubotan. Very nice. How's the deployment speed on it? Outstanding. Comes out fast. Locks up nice and solid. Side to side, up and down. And the deployment speed is almost on par with Benchmade's. Very well balanced knife, especially for a large tactical folding knife of this variety. It is a liner lock, but the liner is relatively thick. It engages very purposefully, locks tightly, and they also have what they call an interlock system on it, which is very reminiscent of the CRKT's lock system. So what it does is prevent that liner from folding on you as you go into some very hard use. So you fans of lockbacks might want to look at the Combat Folder. It's a very strong design. You can take the whole handle apart if you have to with Torx fasteners if you dunk it in salt water, and it is fully stainless steel lined, which adds to the weight but also adds to the strength. I wish they would skeletonize it in there. They did not. Pocket clip is pivot mounted. It's very nicely contoured to the upper edge of the knife. I wish it was reversible to this end, but it is not. However, it's strong, it's blackened, nicely contoured, and it holds fast. Good job, Gerber, on that. Finally, it comes with a sheath that can be mounted horizontally or vertically. Good job with that. But if it was me, especially if I'm a trooper, I would carry this knife in a pistol pouch just like so. Not as fast as a fixed blade for sure, but it's more compact and lighter than a fixed blade. That's the Gerber Combat Folder. It's an outstanding blade. So-so steel, great design, good reach, adequate weight, solid lockup, outstanding handle, strong locking mechanism. Highly recommended. You're going to be hard-pressed to beat it at this price. That's Nut and Fancy's review. Thanks for watching.